Almost every struggling couple does this, and most of them do not see how much damage it is causing. They think they are explaining themselves, protecting themselves by making their point. Each one is trying to be heard. But when two people try to be heard both at the same time, the fight will only keep growing. And as a result, both people feel more and more unheard. I'm Irina, I'm a psychologist and marriage mentor. I help wives understand the deeper patterns that hurt connection in marriage. And today I want to talk about one that shows up in so many homes and causes much more damage than people realize. Maybe you know this moment. You bring up something small to your husband. Maybe you say, "It hurt me that you didn't text me when you were running late." Or, "I felt alone with the kids this morning." And before you even finish, he says, "Well, I was busy." "Why is it always me? You do the same thing. That's not how it happened." And now you can feel it. He's not really hearing you. He is protecting himself. And maybe if you're honest, you have done it too. He tells you something that hurt him. And right away, you explain, justify, push back, or point to what he did wrong. In that moment, both people feel like they have to protect themselves. That moment may seem small, but is one of the most common and corrosive patterns in distressed relationships because it escalates conflict and blocks repair. I'm talking about defensiveness. We all have done it. Defensiveness is when your main goal in the conversation is not to understand your partner. It is to protect yourself from blame, criticism, or feeling wrong. It doesn't feel like that though. We're not even aware we're doing it. That's why I'm inviting you to reflect with me here. This is what it often sounds like. Yes, but that's not what happened. You always do this too. You're too sensitive. I only did that because you... Tell me in the comments if any of this sound familiar to you. Sometimes it's a long explanation that leaves no room for the other person's pain. And sometimes it shows up in the body and how you talk. Crossed arms, heavy sighs, interrupting, talking faster, talking louder, getting sharp. Many people will confuse defensiveness with disagreement or setting boundaries, but it's not the same thing. What makes it defensive is the goal. The goal is self-protection, not connection. The response does not engage your partner's hurt. It pushes it away. That is why defensiveness is so damaging. When your partner brings you pain, and all they get back is defense, they do not feel heard. They feel alone. The same for you. When you share your pain, and the only thing you get back is excuses, you don't feel heard. Over time, feeling unheard and unseen becomes such a constant. Now you shift toward more damaging patterns like withdrawal, disconnection, and constant need to protect yourself in the relationship. These are all consequences of defensiveness. That need to protect yourself at all costs and above all. Now, people don't just plan to become defensive. It usually happens fast, automatic. It's a reflex. Let me share with you how it's happening in the body and what purposes does it serve. The research explains that it's often a biologically primed self-protective response. In simple words, when the person feels attacked, their body gears up to protect itself before they can even think clearly. This is why defensiveness often shows up so quickly. A complaint comes in, the body reads danger, and before there's real listening, there's pushing back. This is also why defensiveness and criticism usually travel together. One partner says something in a hard way, the other feels attacked and gets defensive, and the first person feels even more unheard, so they come back even harder, and now the whole thing gets worse. Maybe you've heard of the criticism-defensiveness loop. It is one of the most common patterns in distressed couples. This pattern keeps couples stuck. How does it happen? When someone feels criticized, the nervous system activates fast. Heart rate goes up, stress hormone rise, good thinking drops. Gottman called this emotional state flooding. And when a person is flooded, they're much less able to take in new information, consider another view, or respond calmly. That helps explain why some people seem impossible to talk to in the moment. Sometimes their body is so activated that all they can do is protect themselves. Another major role defensiveness plays is covering the deeper fears a person might have. Fear of being seen as a failure, fear of disappointing the partner, fear of not being enough, fear of being rejected or unloved. So under the defensiveness, there may be shame and hurt. There may be the fear that if I really take this in, it will mean something bad about me. Again, that does not excuse it, but it explains why people get so reactive. Now let's talk about what defensiveness does to a marriage. First, conflict does not actually get resolved. The issue comes up, one person gets defensive, the real concern never lands, so the problem comes back again. That is why so many couples feel like they're having the same fight over and over again, because defensive responses do not solve the hurt. They block it. Second, its emotional safety starts breaking down. If every time I bring up something hard, you explain, deny, blame, or counterattack, I stop feeling safe telling you the truth, and I start feeling lonely inside the marriage. Third, trust and admiration in the relationship start going down. Trust grows when a partner can hear your pain and respond to it. If you keep feeling unheard, what happens to your trust? It weakens. As a result, intimacy goes down too, and it's a vicious cycle. To support that, Gottman found that around 69% of couples' arguments are perpetual. Couples keep having the same arguments because they keep arguing in the same way, without the awareness and tools they need to break the cycle. And if there are children in the home, they learn from this too. Children who grow up around chronically defensive conflict often learn the same pattern. They become more likely to hear feedback as attack, struggle with accountability, and carry that style into their own friendships and adult relationships. So this does not stay between the two adults. It shapes the whole home. Now let's talk about what to do in 3 steps. The first step, you might have heard this already, but it's so important and I keep mentioning it. Slow your body before you answer. You cannot listen well when your body is screaming danger. So learn your early signs. Recognize when you're emotionally flooded and take one slow breath before you answer. You can even say out loud, "Give me a second." And if you're too activated, take a structured break. Research recommends 20 to 30 minutes because that is often what the nervous system needs to calm down. Walk, breathe, ground yourself, and do not spend that time building the counter arguments in your head. And most important, come back when you said you would. That is not avoidance, it's actually protecting the conversation from getting worse. The second step is listen to understand before you defend. This is huge. Most defensive people are listening for what they want to say back, not for what their partner is actually feeling. So instead, try this. Before you explain anything, say back what you heard. What I'm hearing is that when I come home and go straight to my phone, you felt dismissed and alone. That kind of listening helps your partner feel heard. And when people feel heard, they soften and don't feel like they need to protect themselves. That's what we want, right? A strong way of listening is being curious about what your partner just shared. After you repeated feedback, what they said, ask one curious question. What did that mean to you? Curiosity and defensiveness do not go well together. Then, after your partner feels heard, you can share your side, not to erase theirs, just to add yours. That sequence matters a lot. And the third step is to take responsibility for the small part that is true. Most complaints have at least a small part that is true. Even if the whole way it was said feels unfair, your job is to find that piece first. Maybe it sounds like, "You're right, I did forget. You're right, my tone was sharp. It's true that I interrupted you." That changes the conversation. Now your partner feels heard. And one big warning here. Do not say "but" right after. "You're right, but." That usually erases the whole ownership. Let the ownership land first. Then later, when the conversation is calmer, you can share your side. Research calls this taking responsibility for the kernel of truth. And it is a core tool in evidence-based couples work. And here's the simplest way to remember the full flow. First, calm your body. Then listen and reflect. Then take responsibility for the part that is true and share your side. This order disrupts and often stops the criticism-defensiveness loop. And one more thing. If defensiveness has become chronic and it has already turned into contempt, stonewalling, or deep hopelessness, it is wise to get help. Even if you're the only one getting it, it can change this dynamic in the marriage. I hope this was helpful. Subscribe. Every week I share tools and insights to help women build healthier and happier marriages.